This life story sounds really messed up, but please hear me out. It is my life story. I am a 34-year-old lady. I lived with my ex-boyfriend who is 36 years old for about 3 years. We weren't dating when I moved in. We started out as roommates, and after about a year we started dating. He has a daughter from a previous relationship who would visit even before we started dating, who was 13 at the time. She is now 16. She was always coming over to visit quite often, and we included her when we could when she was here. We developed a pretty good relationship, but her mom was still heavily involved in her life, and I never saw myself as a stepmom to her. My ex-boyfriend, her dad, and I broke up at the beginning of December 2019. We just aren't a good fit for each other, amongst other things. We decided to keep the rental agreement as it worked for both of us, and due to COVID restrictions in 2020. I started seeing my current fiancé, who is 34 years old, in April of 2020 and have now begun the steps of moving in with him because I am currently pregnant and expecting my baby in the next 4 months. Ex's daughter still visits and often asks to hang out with me or to come to my new apartment when I finally move out officially. I've tried to be as accommodating as possible and explain that her father and I are no longer together and that we probably won't be seeing each other often, if even at all. Things came to a head last week when she tried to hand off a box of her items that she wanted me to take to the new apartment so she has some things of her own when she came to spend the night. We never agreed on this. I never said she can come over and hang out with my fiancé and me. She also asked if she could help name her new sister when she finally arrived, and I was extremely uncomfortable after the whole thing. I decided to have a talk with her and my ex and told them that this had to stop. She asked why she couldn't be included, and I told her that I am not her mom and that I was starting a family of my own and that she already had a mom to look forward to. The ex-boyfriend said that I took on a motherly title in her life for 2 years and that I was wrong to try and shut her out after the breakup. She left after the conversation and has reached out after the fact to ask if there's any way she can still be in my life. I've been ignoring the messages and focusing on moving the last of my things to the new place. The ex-boyfriend told me I'm a cold bitch and that he won't forgive me for hurting her like this. I feel like I'm heartless for cutting her out, but I really want to move on with my life. Did I do anything wrong here? I'm moving nearly across the state. I am uncomfortable with her considering herself my child and my responsibility when she has 2 parents who are heavily involved in her life. Keeping her involved in my life affects my fiancé as well, who has no interest in her or having any sort of relationship with her. I treated her as I would a friend's child anytime she was with us. I treated her well and kindly, but I was never mom. I love her, she's not a bad kid. I just have my own stuff going on at the moment and would prefer to distance myself, as my ex-boyfriend plans on seeing other women in the future, and I'm sure me hanging around would be uncomfortable for any new partner he has. I spoke to ex's daughter this morning over the phone. I explained that people come and go and that this is just one of those situations. I wished her well and told her she's free to call or text every once in a while, and she was still unhappy. My fiancé told me to leave it and move on, which I'm beginning to think is best. I'm leaving for my new house tomorrow and tried to call ex's daughter to apologize. She still wanted all or nothing from me. She wanted me to see her as my daughter, which I really couldn't do. I wished her well once again, and I hope she can heal with time. I accept I'm somewhat of a bad person, but I'm ready to move on. Because this has bothered me so much, I have sought counsel in some places and with a couple of persons. These are some of the advice I got as regards this issue. The first. You need those boundaries in place, and she was jumping on the big sister bandwagon without even realizing it wasn't there. She was inputting herself in places she wasn't asked, but I feel like it was more on miscommunication than actually trying to force her way in. Just because you never saw yourself as a stepmom, she may have, and no one took the time to properly explain the new dynamics to her, as she genuinely and innocently could have thought that this new baby would have been her new little sister and you and your husband her extended family of sorts. However, that type of conversation would not just be on you to have had with her, but your ex as well. But he does have a point about how you were a mother figure in her life for 2 years that she obviously cared deeply about. She probably feels abandoned, and if a conversation like that were to happen, it would be a lot better coming from you than him. Even though you want to focus on moving out, I do have to ask, are you completely cutting her out just like that, leaving things how you did? It is obviously still your choice, whichever you chose, but ignoring her when it's obvious she wants to talk and most likely get some closure, is not the best move, in my opinion. You may want to move on, but I would recommend helping her move on too by talking things out, as that was a bombshell to drop and then just leave with. Her question seems like a plea for both explanations and for any hope. If there is no hope for her being in your new life, explain that, and yes, her feelings will still get hurt, but not as bad as they probably would be getting ignored and technically abandoned by someone she really cares about. Talking things out is better than leaving it just like that, 100%. And you don't have to do it right now, but even just sending a quick text about you two talking later still will mean something and be better than nothing. The next advice I got. Let me ask you, would you be okay with someone treating your unborn child, down the road, the way you treated her? As a mother, I would appreciate it. How many moms do you think actually want their kids pining after their ex's ex who doesn't want them as second moms? No. That's not a desirable thing. The person who messed up here is the dad. He needed to set his daughter straight rather than push her on his ex-girlfriend in a situation where she clearly wasn't wanted and her feelings weren't reciprocated. I don't know what issues dad had preventing him from doing this, but it clearly was not in this young woman's best interest. It sounds like dad was misleading her, whether intentional or not, whether his intentions were simply not smart or part of some manipulation. But you needed to set this girl straight with the truth. I'd want my child to know the truth. And she had to be even more direct and clear with the truth, with that less than a stellar father arguing you needed to be this kid's mother figure right in front of her. Dad was setting up expectations in the girl that would lead the girl to feel hurt, and you had to clear this. Also, the young woman is 16. She's old enough, to be honest with. Think of it this way, if your child was romantically in love with someone who didn't love them back, would you want them to tell them the truth so they could move on, or string your child along indefinitely since telling them the truth felt mean? This girl deserved the truth, and a responsible parent would want them to have it. Not to mention a responsible parent would be weirded out by dad's bizarre attempt to try to push his ex of 2 years to be his teenager who has a mom's mother figure when she's never seen herself that way.